Hi everyone, so I hope you're well. Today we are joined by Mitsubishi Chemical, formerly known as Lutite International. So Mitsubishi Chemical is one of the world's largest chemical producers, supplying a wide range of sectors from automotive and electronics to medical and sport. They've been advertising on GradCracker for the last 7 years, meaning that they're part of the GradCracker 5-year club. I mentioned previously that Lutite International has just rebranded as Mitsubishi Chemical, and we have completely overhauled their hub on GradCracker with lots of new imagery and content, including pages on work-life balance, sustainability, diversity and inclusion, and much more. So make sure you go and take a look. Mitsubishi Chemical is also sponsoring the GradCracker Toolkit this year, which is really exciting. And for those of you who don't already know, which you should do, but if you don't, the GradCracker Toolkit is full of advice about the industry sectors which you as STEM students can go into. The new toolkit will be available on campus in the autumn and on GradCracker as an ebook and audiobook towards the end of the summer, so watch out for that. So let's find out a little bit more and meet the panel. So firstly, I'm really excited to introduce you to Anna. So Anna is a European recruiter at Mitsubishi Chemical. Can you give us, so welcome Anna, thanks for joining us today.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
Our pleasure. So could you give us a bit of an overview to who Mitsubishi Chemical is to start off with?
Right. Yes, so as you mentioned, we're one of the largest chemical companies in the world, and we're quite a complex company. So we've decided really to brand ourselves and come together. There's so many group companies within Mitsubishi Chemical, and we just wanted to be known as one company. We think we're stronger together. We can, pull, share our knowledge. So just really rely on each other. And we think we have a stronger market presence if we're together. And if you think about UK, so we have 4 operational businesses here, and one of them is the methacrylates, which is probably our biggest operation. So it's the place where we produce methacrylate. This is the building block for acrylics. We also have a Sornol business. We also have electrolyte and specialty resins and polymers side. So altogether, that's the Mitsubishi Chemical in the UK. Of course, we are part of the global business, so we also have operations in many European countries, and we produce so many different chemicals. It will probably take me a long time to talk about it, and I don't want to take too much of your time. But we are everywhere. So literally, if you walk into every room, into your house, you will see our products in there. It's a packaging, could be a TV screen, a baby bottle. So you will see our products and applications everywhere.
Thank you, Anna. And I think when the grads speak a little bit later on, we'll go into more detail about what you do as a business and obviously the projects that the grads are involved in as well. So we'll definitely give you some hands-on experience to who you are and what you do. So I mentioned at the beginning, Anna, that you are the European recruiter. So thinking about the audience now, students today, are the graduates able to go and travel and go into the other European parts of Mitsubishi Chemical?
That is true, but that's a special program. It's our European vacancy. It's a commercial graduate program, rotational program. So you might be based in different countries.
Oh, brilliant.
So we will be advertising for that role probably sometime in summer.
Yeah.
Most of our roles are based in UK though, and then you can be present in different sites. So you will have some rotation, but that would be in Northeast area.
Yeah. Fantastic. So you mentioned that your commercial program will be opening in the summer.
Yeah.
And then have you got any plans to open any more opportunities on GradCracker over the autumn, or is it just the one program that we're looking at this year?
We're still looking at our needs and our budgets, but we will probably need 2 chemical engineering student placements. So we might advertise towards the end of the year. There might be some other roles, but I cannot tell you yet, but we're still looking into our needs.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Anna. So just a note to everybody out there, make sure you go and follow them on GradCracker today, and then you'll be alerted to when they open their opportunities by a push notification on the GradCracker app and also by email as well. So thanks, Anna. We'll speak to you a little bit later on about the recruitment processes. But for now, what I'd like to do is meet the graduates. So Tom, I'm going to start with you. Could you introduce yourself to the panel? Sorry, not to the panel, we know who you are, to the audience, where you went to university and what did you study?
Yeah, thanks, Carla. So as Carla says, I'm Tom. I went to the University of Liverpool and I studied a Masters in Mechanical Engineering.
And why did you choose to apply to Mitsubishi Chemical?
It stood out to me on GradCracker as one of the sort of the larger companies on there. I liked where it was based, and it sounded quite interesting what the job was itself. So yeah, it just sort of stood out above the rest, to be honest.
Perfect. And we're going to find out a little bit more what Tom does later on in the webinar. But for now, Grace, over to you, my love. So where did you go to uni? What did you study? And why did you choose to apply?
So I'm Grace. I graduated from Newcastle in 2019 as a chemical engineer, and I work at our research and development site. I suppose the biggest thing that stood out to me about Lucite was that there would be opportunities to take part in sort of every stage of a process design. So we do a lot of experimental work, we do the design, then we have the production sites as well. So I knew I'd get lots of opportunities to try a broad range of things and sort of figure out where it is that I wanted to work.
Yeah, and are you all based at this? Oh, sorry, just catching up. Are you all based in the same place?
No, we're all in the northeast. I think I'm the only one who works at the R&D site. I think everyone else works at the Castle site, which is the big production site.
Perfect. And did you choose to work at the R&D site? Is that a choice that you made away from the actual, the manufacturing site?
No, so when they send you where the work is really. So
yeah,
as part of the graduate program, you will get the opportunity to do different placements. So I will be going to the Castle site, so probably sometime next year. But no, it depends on essentially where they have work for you to do.
Fantastic. Okay, thanks very much, Grace. And we're going to go on to Kyle now. So same question, Kyle, where did you go to university? What did you study? And why choose to apply?
Yep, thanks, Carla. Hi, everybody. My name is Kyle Mallon. I'm a graduate chemical engineer at the Castle site for Mitsubishi Chemical. Similarly to Ben and Tom, I started in the company last August, and that's just after graduating from the University of Edinburgh after a very long 5-year slug. Why I applied for Mitsubishi Chemical, or Lucite as we were formerly known. Whenever I was looking through GradCracker, obviously you have to filter through so many different jobs whenever you're applying, but Mitsubishi really stood out really just because of the level of detail. It said specifically exactly what you're going to be doing in your role, where you were going to be, how much you were getting paid, everything. So it was really that level of transparency that attracted me. Yeah, I'm happy I did apply.
So every time you speak, Carl, Ben smiles.
Yeah, I think he's got a smile on his
face, bless him.
Yeah, I'm his idol. He wishes.
I love that. So you mentioned 5-year slog at university, Kyle. Why was it a slog? So you studied, did you study for 4 years and then a placement? Just go through that with us.
So Scottish universities, whenever I should have known this before I actually went up there. It's 5 years for a STEM subject master's. So it was just 5 long years in university, no placements or anything. Done a couple of summer placements, but no, mostly in the classroom, unfortunately.
Okay, so you definitely enjoyed your time there then.
Beautiful city. But I'm
lovely
happy
campus
that
at Edinburgh as well.
Oh, it's lovely. It's beautiful, but I'm definitely glad to be down in sunny Teesside now. Anyway.
No.
Yeah, you need to be down with us Northerners, love.
Exactly.
So thanks very much, Jack. Sorry, Jess.
Oh no, I'm just saying it's all good.
Oh, okay. I thought you went to speak. And now Ben, Smiley Ben. Last but not least, same question.
Hello, so my name's Ben, and I study at the chemical engineering at the University of Leeds, but I haven't finished quite yet. So I'm between my 3rd and 4th years of study, and I'm here on placement. The reasons I applied for MCUK or Lucite was basically, as a placement engineering student, you want to get as much exposure to like the industry as possible, and like especially with learning about like the site overhauls, which I'm sure we'll cover later. You get to see a lot of stuff on site. You're out there in the field doing the work and seeing things in person. That's really what you want to link what you've learned at uni to applying it to your future job. So yeah, that's what really stood out to me when I applied.
And what is the plan then? So you're going to go back to university for 2 years?
For 1 year. So I've done 3 years. So I've got my bachelor's, come here for my placement year, and then I'm going back for 1 more year to do my master's degree. So
And then
more work waiting for me.
and then how does that work then? So do you think you'll have a position there for you after you've done your placement at Mitsubishi, or what's
Well,
the plan?
that's the hope. That's the aim of this year, is to hopefully gain that role. But if not, then it's wherever life takes me, really. But yeah, I've just got to go back, get my master's, and then I want to move on into the grad role, similar to what Kyle and Thomas are doing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And from our audience, I know Jess speaks to the students every single day, but just from your point of view, why is it so important for a student to think about going on a placement? You know, there'll be lots of students watching thinking, oh, should I do a summer placement or a year-long placement, or should I not? Why would you suggest that they did carry out a placement?
I suppose, like, you learn a lot at uni. You learn your technical aspects of stuff, but you only start to really learn about the job itself when you go into industry. I can know that from experience. I learned so much in the first few months compared to like the 3 years at uni. That's not like disrespect to my uni, but like it's just like it's applying what you've learned there and coming into the industry, and like kind of adding that kind of common sense approach to like engineering problems and things like that. So yeah, I would fully recommend doing a placement. It is daunting at first because obviously you're starting bottom of the pile, but there's nothing to lose and there's so much to gain. So yeah, I'd fully recommend it.
Ben, question, did you have any work experience before you applied for this role? So any kind of work experience, whether it be relevant or not?
Nothing relevant to engineering. I applied for lots of things. I applied basically every summer for a summer placement, and then the aim was always to do a year-long placement between 3rd and 4th year. And hopefully, thankfully, this dropped out. But yeah, no prior engineering experience, so it was genuinely like being dropped in at the deep end with this role. So
yeah, and the reason why I ask, I think sometimes when I speak to students in the past, you know, they're worried that the CV might not necessarily look great, you know, at this kind of early stage of their career. Have they got, you know, good examples of, you know, work in industry and things like that? And you probably haven't. So to bear that in mind and think, right, well, what else can I fill my CV up with? It's a good point, you know, Anna, you're looking at candidates, you know, for their personal skills, looking at them for what they've learned at university, personal traits as well, obviously is a big thing. But I think sometimes students are a bit nervous out there thinking, oh gosh, do I need to know everything before I jump into this placement? And, you know, am I expected to know everything? So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, I guess elaborating on that, it's if you don't have the experience like I did, the thing I can recommend is just try and extract from previous jobs, whether it be working in a pub, working, I don't know, in a shop or something. You've got to find those transferable skills of, I can do this in a team, and I can like work on a task independently. I can work as part of a group or lead a group. You've got to extract them skills and obviously showcase them to your potential employers.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think as well, something that we really stood out from the webinar that we held last week, it's how you respond personally to situations as well. So last week we were talking about like social situations. How do your friends look to you and what to look to you towards? So if it's like, if you're a friend who's a good leader, for example, and I think all of these things that you can include on your application and all of these things is what Anna is looking for. So yeah, thanks very much, guys, for the introduction. What I'm going to do now, and I know, Kyle, you touched upon this before, but when you were researching and applying for opportunities on GradCracker, what made the hub on GradCracker stand out more? So what were the areas that you thought, I'm going to research that? I'm just thinking from our audience's point of view, give them some hints and tips of the areas that you really found the most useful. So Grace, I'm going to come to you for this one.
Yeah, I think the thing that helped me with the most was it just laid out so clearly, so you could get a really good overview of what the company was all in one place. And then obviously it doesn't have all of the information about the entire company on the GradCrack, but then it provided enough of a launching point, I suppose, for me want to go, okay, I want to know more about this company. And then obviously I applied for a lot of other jobs and placements, etc. It was all there in the one place. Yeah. So I could track what I had applied for, what I hadn't, etc. So I just think that having everything there easily accessible.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? All of these employers, I mean, we've got over 300 employers that all, want to advertise on GradCracker, and all of their websites are completely different. So having everything in a nice, orderly fashion on GradCracker means that, the students and the graduates can find the information easily. So yeah, thanks for that, Grace. And I'm going to go on now to Kyle to ask you a similar question.
Yep. So sort of as I mentioned initially, the transparency is the main thing that attracted me, and I think Grace just kind of touched on that there. And then additionally, there is quite a lot of good content on there, apart from maybe, there is obviously the job specific things, but the things around the companies. I know for our company, I see my manager on there, but there's old profiles and things of people that work there. So it gives you a bit of an insight into that as well. And sort of their day-to-day role from a personal perspective. So not really what PR sort of spits out, but what people actually working there do on their day-to-day basis. So that was quite helpful.
Yeah, and I think this webinar as well, Kyle, is going to be quite similar. So students and graduates who wanting to apply to Mitsubishi Chemical, they want it from the horse's mouth, as it were. They want to hear from the grads and the students, and they want to hear your snippets. So as I always mention every single week, the snippets will be on the hub on GradCracker, that you as students can go back and rewatch and really get it straight from the mouths of the place. Obviously Ben, who's on a placement, and the grads here as well. Ben and Tom, is there anything that you wanted to add to that, or have you kind of covered off all the points?
I'd just sort of elaborate on what Kyle said there about the personal testimonies on the page are really helpful. They are years old now. You're sort of going back to early 2010s, but it still stands. It's useful to see what they were doing day to day, and to be honest, a lot of it's probably still quite similar to what I'm doing day to day now. So it's useful to sort of understand, especially as a mechanical grad. I think a lot of the details can be geared towards chemical because that's what we do. That's our bread and butter. But to have those testimonies from the mechanical graduates that have previously been through the system, it's really useful, and I'd recommend watching them.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I always say to students that you two-prong approach. Are you right for that company, and is that company right for you? And I think if you spend your time going through those pages and understanding what boxes to tick for you and what you can tick for them, it'll definitely help with your applications. So next, I want to go on to your current roles. So at Mitsubishi, and what the kind of life at Mitsubishi it really entails, and what are your teams like? I know we kind of spoke just before this session about kind of remote working, and Carl, you mentioned you're back in the office full time now. So how is everything working? So I'm going to come to you first, Grace, if you could kind of introduce what life is like for you.
Yes, so as I said, I'm a chemical engineer working at our research and development site, specifically in new route development. So the Wilton site, it's a combination of sort of office spaces, and we also have labs, and we also have a pilot plant. So working in new route development, all the stuff I work on tends to be stuff that no one has done before, and no one knows if it'll work.
Okay.
So there's a lot of sort of first principles thinking, a lot of modeling on software or on Excel. So you got to try and think through the implications, and then when all else fails, a lot of educated guessing. So I work closely with the chemists as well. So I also end up doing a lot of odd side jobs as well. So if they need any engineering work doing, if they want to build a rig for an experiment or something, I'll design that for them. So it's a lot of sort of small scale work, as opposed to sort of the large scale stuff you would do at a production site.
So you're kind of like at the forefront of it all then, coming up with all the crazy ideas. So could you give an example, or is it a bit top secret, but could you give an example of a project?
Yes, so the main project I'm working on is about the production of our main product, methyl methacrylate, from biological sources. So that there's really two approaches to that. The first is to find renewable feedstocks for our existing processes. So for example, if we used ethanol in a process, we would try and find bioethanol. Right. But my main project is to find a completely novel route to MMA through some sort of bio process. So for example, through a fermentation process.
Yeah.
So obviously we are not a bioengineering company. It's not what we do. It's not our bread and butter, as they say. So we have a lot of partnerships with other companies and organizations, and also with universities as well. So we sponsor some PhDs, particularly at Nottingham.
Yeah.
So the part of it that we do is looking at, after they've presuming that the bioprocess part of it is successful, how do we take that product that is produced through that fermentation and refine it? How do we extract any useful materials we may want to recycle, to reuse again?
Yeah.
So yeah, as I said, it's a lot of modeling and estimating, trying to get things to work. A lot of drawings, crossing out the drawings, redoing the drawings again. I think one of the most interesting parts of it that I've done is working on the design of a pilot scale plant. So we have a pilot plant at Wilton, which was designed for a different process. So I'm trying to figure out how we could potentially take this pilot plant and re-engineer it for this new process. So what we would have to take out, what we'd have to put in, how much it would cost. You know, is it cheaper just to rip it all out and build a new one entirely? So there's really a wide range of stuff. So I'm working on sort of every part of an engineering design process within that project.
I haven't really thought about this question before I want to say it, so but bear with me. So what is kind of like the forefront of your mind all the time when you're doing these new projects? You know, as a business, would you say sustainability is a massive thing you've got to consider? Obviously cost and things like that, but is there something which, you know, because I guess you're, you know, testing and new stuff all the time, and obviously the new legislations that come in all the time, stuff is going to change. What's at the forefront of your mind that is kind of a thing that you've got to stick to, would you say?
I think especially for this project, given that it is about finding renewable processes, it's definitely the sustainability aspect of it. We're not at the point in this design where we would really be thinking about the detailed safety that much, because obviously it's not anywhere near being built yet. So I imagine at Castle, safety is probably more of a concern. But for us at the moment, it's definitely the sustainability. So for example, if we were to design this process and it all works wonderfully, but it produces more carbon dioxide than an existing process, then it's not really worth it. And there's always the economic element of it as well.
Sure, of course.
So someone has to pay to build it.
Well, that sounds like the best of both worlds. You don't have to worry about the boring stuff of it being safe. You can do the fun stuff. Sounds good to me. Okay, coming to you next, Carl. Same kind of question. Projects, life, team, everything. Let us know what's going on.
So I am situated in the Castle site. So conversely to Grace, who's over at our research and development in Wilton, we're primarily based on the production of methyl methacrylate and a couple of other different chemicals. So basically right off the bat, day one, I was put in as the primary process engineer for 2 of the plants on site. So we have 12 in total. So my plants produce methacrylic acid, which is similar to methyl methacrylate. It's a lot of big words. That takes a while to get a hold of. And then I also produce
what is
impact
that chemical? Sorry, Cal. So what is that? What is it?
It's very similar to the methyl methacrylate. So the methyl methacrylate, we basically produce a thing called monomer, and then that gets sent off to our customers, and then they turn it into the plastics, as Anna was sort of talking about earlier. So the stuff that you might see in your TV screens, in car headlights and things like that, dental products, and pretty much everything. Wow. So the methacrylic acid is pretty similar to that, but there's a few different niches associated with it. And then the other product that I produce is an impact modifier. So basically something that goes into existing hardware plastics that makes them shatterproof, essentially. So yeah, from a chemical engineering point of view, it's quite interesting because the 2 plants are very different. One is continuous, one is batch, and I assume there'll be quite a lot of chemical engineers listening to that, and it exposes you to a lot of different technologies, which is quite nice. at my stage of my career.
Yeah.
And then I suppose in terms of day-to-day things, again, it's very varied. So in the morning, for example, I'll be troubleshooting. So I'll come in, have a look at the plants, make sure that they're operating safely. If there's any hiccups, I basically have to go find out what happened, come up with a solution to that within the morning. Then I might move on to some projects that I'm working on. And the projects, unfortunately, not unfortunately, but we have to focus on the more safety aspect of things, the economic aspect of things, which is a little bit different than over at Wilton.
Yeah.
And then really whatever just shows up on your desk that day. You've got different people looking information off you, and you're kind of basically just providing the technical support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I smiled earlier, right? Because I remember at school when you used to get those plastic rulers and they used to say on them that they were shatterproof.
Yeah, that's us, yeah.
And I always think, why would that be a thing? That it's shatterproof.
I guess, I don't know, sharp edges.
Those rulers at school.
When you get hit over the head, it doesn't shatter. I didn't even have plastic rulers. I'm sure my rulers are.
Are you still wooden? No,
I think so, yeah.
That old, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
That's
God.
bad, is that, isn't it?
Was it wooden rulers?
Wooden rulers, yeah, Kyle, wooden.
Retro.
They used to get slapped on the wrist with us when we didn't really look that old.
The chalk on the.
I apologise, Carl, that after all the great things you just said then, I was thinking of school and shatterproof rulers.
No, you're fine. It's all relevant. Like that's the final product. Like, so it is all relevant at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny as well, because I had a look, obviously, did my research before the webinar, had a look at the company hub. But I was actually surprised as well. You don't think, and obviously I know, Anna, you said it, but all these products, like stuff on my desk now, stuff in this room that you're involved in, you don't even think that it's, you're all involved in it. You kind of always think of the end products, don't you? The household names. So you don't kind of think about the bit before that. So interesting. Ben, coming to you next.
Yeah.
What is life like on placement? What are you doing?
Placement. So I work in the same kind of technical cluster as Kyle. So the guy who basically sits in Kyle's office is my line manager. So basically what Kyle does, if it's like maybe a smaller task that like I could take on as experience or something that I can like take as my own, like run with it and give it legs, they'll pass it down to me. So it's very similar. I come in the morning, I chat with my manager Sam, and we literally just say like, has anything cropped up overnight, anything throughout like yesterday, and then we'll just troubleshoot basically. And it's kind of like you're troubleshooting alongside that. It's kind of like a development role where like you want to make the plant more safe, more efficient, things like that. That's what I'll get onto later. That's like some of the things I work on. I get like the little tasks of like making processes safer on our plant and things like that, just like day-to-day stuff. That's what it's all about. That's like that key aspect of our like plant, keeping everything safe.
Is Kyle your boss then, Ben?
No, he's not my boss. He's
He's
like, so he was like
Kyle's
me,
job, innit?
Kyle.
He wants to be Kyle.
Exactly.
He
Kyle's on the
wishes
same
I
level
was
as
his
my.
boss.
Oh yeah.
He wishes.
All right.
Maybe one day, man.
You keep thinking that.
I thought that'd wind you well up. Sorry.
So yeah, it's me, Kyle, and then two others are basically like the monomers technical team. So there's two monomer producing plants. It's like methyl methacrylate. So the plant that I work on with my boss is a methyl methacrylate producing plant, and Kyle's is methacrylic acid. So it's a little bit different, but quite similar processes.
You should have seen how quickly Kyle came off mute then when I said, is he your boss?
I know, I had to jump in.
Jumping for the mic.
I was scrambling for the mute button.
Sorry, Jess. Go on.
What is the biggest kind of health and safety concern when you're dealing with these chemicals? What's what would be the worst kind of case scenario that you're preventing or stopping from happening? Leakages, things like that?
We are fortunate that we are very on top of our safety. We have quite a lot of nasty stuff on site, unfortunately, and that's some of the work that we do over at Wilton is producing sort of roots, as Grace was mentioning, not only more sustainable roots, but roots that don't contain sort of the bad chemicals. We have things like cyanides and sulfuric acid and things like that, but fortunately, whenever you have stuff like that, you get to pay a lot more attention to it. We invest a lot of money to keep the stuff in the pipes and make sure that we monitor everything correctly. And that's our primary role, is the safety aspect of things, which is, it's quite refreshing. And yeah, it is quite daunting at first, but you realize after a while how much attention is paid to it.
Yeah, I bet. Interesting. Tom, I'm going to come to you next. Same as the above. What's life like for you?
Yeah, so I work at the Castle site with the lads, but obviously I'm a mechanical engineer instead.
Yeah.
So whereas they will be looking at the process sort of conditions, what could be causing issues there, I'll look at essentially our assets, our machinery, our pipes, things like that, make sure they're operating safely. And then when we get these big ideas coming from the process team about operating plants and things like that, the mechanical team will get involved and see how we can sort of practically do it a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I work on the cyanide plant. I'm one of the downstream plants of that, which is ACH. So obviously, as Kyle mentioned there, it's horrible stuff. It's dangerous. Big emphasis on safety, about preventing leaks, and about getting product out the door at the end of the day. So
do you help with transport as well then, Tom, or is it just holding the chemicals at the plant at that point, or do you help with the transportation of it?
We'll just handle there's transportation around the site, external. Well, our end product on my plant goes elsewhere on the site. It goes to sort of Kyle and Ben's plants. Transportation out the door, that's a different concern.
Right.
But we sort of have miles and miles of pipe around site, which comes under the mechanical jurisdiction of basically ensuring its integrity, reliability and the likes.
Yeah. What are the pipes made of that hold those horrible chemicals?
There's various things. Most of ours are just sort of carbon steel. You get the sort of more exotic materials on your dangerous chemicals, like your, not to bore you, but the likes of your Manel and your PTFE line pipework. So you get quite expensive. We've got a big project in just outside of my window. We've got an acid running across the site, and the line on that's currently PTFE line, but that's getting replaced with this Manel that I've mentioned. At the end of the year.
Open blind. Let's have a look.
Won't be able to see it off there.
Is it raining?
It is raining.
Right.
Wow. Not the best view from the office, but.
Can I ask a question, Tom? You mentioned about the site and the plant. How big is this place? You know, what we're talking. You know, you mentioned like miles and miles of pipeline and things like that. What do you call it? Square footage, meterage?
I think you'd be into square miles here, wouldn't you? It's a big site. I think from one end of the site to the other, you're probably looking at near enough a kilometre, if not a mile. But then it's more about, we're quite condensed here, so each plant's on several levels. We've got a huge amount of equipment, and the plants, most of them have been in for sort of 50, 60 years. So we're just building and building on top of it, constantly looking to make more. So it's big and it's growing.
Yeah, big place. Cool. Interesting. So Anna, I'm going to come back to you and just find out a little more about what you're looking for in a great candidate, and also to give the audience an idea of what they can expect in the application process for 2020. So Anna, yeah, please can you tell us a bit about that?
Sure. So we're not sure yet if we're going to do an assessment center virtually or face-to-face. Obviously, last year was a bit different with COVID. We had to do it virtually. So we hope we will be in better situation by the time we advertise, and we will be able to meet everyone. So normally it's a 2-day assessment center. It takes 2 days. There's an overnight stay with a meal. It's quite nice. You're meeting other people. But we don't know yet. So we'll see how it's going to look like. Definitely, the whole process starts with you guys. So we advertise all positions on GradCracker. And also on our careers website. So once those applications arrive, we look at them, we pre-screen those candidates, select a couple. Now it could be, depends really how many people are looking for, how many have applied, but we select a certain number of candidates, and we ask them to complete either a phone interview or recorded video interview. That's something we started last year.
Okay.
So there will be a few questions they candidates can answer. Then we will probably take a few of the candidates through testing. So there will be psychometric testing. And following that, we'll will take our finalists through the assessment center. So we're going to see how it's going to look this year, hopefully again face to face. Now, when we think about, you know, ideal candidate, obviously it's hard to say it on paper, but if you have any good grades, that always stands out. Majority of graduates and students look quite the same though, so they have good grades. So you might think how you want to distinguish yourself from others. So obviously any extracurricular activity, anything, any voluntary experience, any extra responsibility, any achievements, just put them on your CV. We're looking for future leaders, really. So anything like that, always it's always good to have. So we want to progress our graduates through a couple of years and move them into more senior positions, and hopefully they want to stay with us a bit longer. So apart from the technical, I guess, you know, and all those good grades and all that technical knowledge, we're looking at people who can really work well with others. So teamwork is a huge, it's hugely important to us, and communication skills, and really many competencies. They're based around how you self-manage yourself, how you manage your work, how you work with others, can you deliver. So we're quite clear what we're looking for in our candidates.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think you've mentioned, you know, a lot of the key competencies that, you know, a lot of other employers look for. So, you know, again, and if anyone that's listening, you know, remember to kind of make notes of that. You know, Anna's just given you an example of some that she likes to see in an application. So get them jotted down and make sure you mention them when you come to applying.
Cool. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Jess. So what we're going to do now is speak to the future leaders that Anna just mentioned, and I'm going to start with you, Ben. So as part of your training and development that you've received so far as a placement student, what part of the training has really stood out for you, and why do you feel like you've benefited from it personally?
Well, when you start, you get your induction training of like meeting everyone, and you get your like health and safety inductions. That's quite a big aspect of it because safety is the primary concern. But in a sense of like training, that word, it's more like you do it as you go along with the job. You learn the things that you didn't know previously. But we do have like a learning system on site where like you can sign up to classes, and you can join in certain things, and like you get hands-on with some things. Like it varies from like health and safety induction, like I say, to like learning how to like extinguish a fire and stuff like that. It's really varied. Like but yeah, I think the development side, you get like your monthly reviews and things like that. So you can see your own progress throughout the year, and then like by the end of it, obviously you can see, because alongside this I have to do a placement report for uni, and that really like helps like couple with that, so I can see my own progress throughout the year, so I can say at different stages how competent I feel in loads of different key skills. So yeah, it's more of in training, it's more just of a general, you pick it up as you go along with the job in my role.
Yeah, and you mentioned, so are you as Ben just getting involved in every single bit of training that you can do? So you mentioned like the training aside from your role, you're just going to get on and just do everything.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way to go. It's just get stuck head first into everything, and like just get exposed to as much as possible. And just like get, even like if it's not my discipline, like a mechanical role like Tom, I'd always like be interested in like their systems, their way of thinking, their processes. So I definitely, I'd just say, if anyone, if you go on placement, you have to do that. Like it is a cliche, but it's just get stuck head first into everything, just because you'll reap the rewards at the end of it. And
Yeah, and I think it gives you so much experience as well, Ben. I mean, you mentioned at the start of the webinar why somebody should consider doing a placement, and it's all of these skills that you're learning during this year as well, isn't it, that you can put on your CV, and then hopefully you can go back to Mitsubishi. But if you decide not to, then you've got that wealth of knowledge, I suppose, haven't you, when you go into a graduate position?
Yeah, definitely. It's stuff that you don't learn in the lecture halls, that like, this is what I mean, like you learn so much quicker out when you get into the industry, and like you're seeing things in person and meeting people who are in the industry, and it just accelerates your learning so much quicker.
I suppose it makes things click though, doesn't it, as well, the things that you've been studying, you think, oh right, okay, so I did learn that, and now I'm actually using it. So I bet there's both sides to it.
Yeah, that's how my way of working has gone throughout the year. I've got given pieces of work, like you can transfer your technical skills to that piece of work from what you've learned at uni, and then they'll say, right, I'm going to take you to your next level, do a bit more in-depth thinking. You might have to like research some stuff, and it's just all like building up to then hopefully at the end of it you're like the prime candidate for your future leaders program, and taking that next step to the grad role, which is hopefully the aim. So
yeah, do you know, a lot of people will perform a lot better when they go back in the final year after doing a year in industry. And I've spoken to so many tutors, so many lecturers that have gone to say, you know, you can tell the student that's been out in industry because they're just completely different when they come back.
Exactly.
No,
it goes beyond the like technical learning and stuff, and it's like setting your routines, your time management, your teamwork, and you can like, I could see it in people when I was doing my design project last year at uni who come back from industry. Like you say, it's so much different. Like their way of thinking, the work ethic, it's just so much better and like so much more developed. And that's why it's just the best thing to do, really. Get that year.
Personally, for you, Ben, you might end up with a better. I mean, I don't know what you predicted or what you're on track to get, but you could see that, you know, your grades even going up because of that and everything else. So it's massive benefit for you as an individual.
Definitely, yeah.
I suppose it'll give you that thirst as well, won't it? So you've experienced, you know, a day job and everything else, and I bet you now you want to, you know, crack on and do it rather than going back to university. But I suppose, no offense to going back to university, but I suppose to get your final year done, and then you can come back and hit the ground running. Yeah,
exactly. You got that year under your belt, so it's not like you're thrown at the deep end again. It's just you can like you've got to that level of, right, I'm the prime placement student, then you take that step over to starting out as a grad and taking on way more responsibility. Like that's what I'm eager to do now. It's like, obviously in my role, I'm like bottom of the pile basically, but you get that hunger to like work your way up and get involved in way more stuff. So
yeah. One day you will be the CEO though, and you'll be managing Kyle and everything.
Yeah, Kyle be you.
If I overtake Kyle, then that's like that's my life complete.
Cool. So I'm going to ask the same question to Grace now. So training and development, what have you enjoyed the most? What have you taken away from it?
So being more office-based, I don't really get the sort of more hands-on opportunities that they get at the Castle site. So the plan was that I would go on external courses, but obviously lockdown put a stop to that. So I've been trying to take more use of the internal opportunities we have. So we have a graduate development program, which essentially details all the skills they would expect a chemical engineer to have. So it's all the sort of typical things you'd expect, like the things that you did at uni, so designing, you know, pieces of equipment, etc. But it also has sort of the soft skills, so presentations and leadership, that sort of stuff, and then sort of, I don't know, like safety legislation, you know, things more businessy that you have to be able to understand. So for each of the things in that program, we have training material. Sometimes it's a presentation, sometimes it's more of a like a named member of the company who's sort of an expert in that subject, who you can go and talk to and learn about it from. So I've been going through that. Another thing that we have at Wilton specifically, so the graduate programs for everyone, but at Wilton, as I said, we lack those technical opportunities. So we have a monthly technical exchange, which is really a chance for all the Wilton graduates to come together and learn about the sort of more practical, hands-on subjects that we wouldn't learn about in our project. So things about, so we've had the mechanical design of pumps, we had a talk about that, steam systems, sort of the more practical elements of a heat exchanger, so that sort of stuff. So it's just really an opportunity to talk to the more senior members of the company who have that experience. And also just a chance for a chat as well.
Yeah, I suppose it's nice to share knowledge as well. And from your point of view, Grace, if there was a bit of training that you think, oh, do you know, I need some additional help with that, can you go and speak to your line manager and say, look, I'm struggling in this area, can I have some extra time to learn or develop yourself in that area?
Yeah, so they are really eager for everyone to develop to their full potential. As I said, if it weren't for COVID, I would have been able to go on all of these various courses, etc. And I would have been able to go over to Castle a bit more as well, so sort of visit and have a little bit of that practical experience. But as I said, COVID put a stop to that. But they're 100% support. If there's something that you want to do and you want to learn about, you know, unless there's something to stop you. For example, if it required you to travel halfway around the world, something like that. So unless there's something ridiculous stopping you, then they're 100% behind you.
And I'm just trying to visualize the geography of where you are. So Wilton and Castle, how far are those sites apart then?
20-minute drive.
Ah,
They're very
okay.
close, yeah.
Yeah, so quite close. Fantastic. I think now we're going to go on, Jess, to the projects.
Yeah. So we haven't asked Tom though about learning and development.
Well, I'm just a bit conscious about time. And we haven't asked Tom and we haven't asked Kyle either. Should we go? We'll go with who's going to Tom. Tell us about your training development.
I won't take up too much time. To be honest, mine's probably quite similar to Grace, where a lot of it's been sort of impacted by COVID. So we had a great deal of plans. I've been quite fortunate because we've got a good site team. So I've been able to go out and things that I might have learned at uni or since starting the job, I've done reading on like pumps and seals. I've been able to go out with the site team and sort of take them apart and see how they actually work rather than just learning through a book.
Yeah.
So I think the on-the-job, hands-on training's probably been my favourite part.
Yeah, I agree. I love hands-on training. I think it's much better than textbook and blackboard and everything else, or whiteboard or whatever you call them these days. Kyle, I can't leave you out. Come on, training and development.
Okay, last but not least though. Yeah, Mitsubishi's quite good for formalized training. Obviously, we've talked about the COVID impact. And the graduate development matrix that Grace talked about and things like that. But I suppose just sort of hitting on some of the other soft skill training that we do have. For example, last week, I believe we had some stress management training and things like that. So we sort of do get at it from all different angles. We have the informal training, so on the day job, as Ben and Tom were talking about, we have the more formalized stuff like the graduate development matrix, and then we have more soft skills things for everybody. So yeah, very happy with the training anyway. Give
me one example of how you can manage stress.
I'm not very good at it, like so I don't know if I'm the one to come to. Get enough sleep. There we go. That's enough one. Deep breaths. I count to 5. All that malarkey.
Count to 5. Good. Jess, projects, love.
I thought you were going to say about stress.
No, we don't get stressed.
Yeah, projects. Tom, let's come to you. Tell me about your favourite or current project that you're working on.
My current one that I'm working on is the replacement of a vessel. So it's inside one of our cyanide cubicles, which adds a bit of a complication to it because you can't actually go in and measure it very easily. So I'm basically relying on the lads who are cubicle trained to go in. And then it sort of brings me back to uni, really, where a lot of this job is just sort of practical experience. And this is letting me have a go at it from a design point of view, looking at the stresses on the vessel, the contents, sort of the effects of that, and where it will be. So it's bringing together a great deal of what I've learned over the past 4 years and what I've learned over the past sort of 9 months since being here. So it's currently sat in our stores. Go on, sorry, Jess.
Sorry, Tom. So the vessel literally will hold all the cyanide in there, will it?
It will, yeah. So
does it move all the time, or does it just sit in that vessel for a period of time?
It's a constantly moving sort of system, so it will accumulate in there and then it will drop down into the rest of the system. But it's the one that's been in place has sort of been in place for 30 years now.
Right.
So we've got a nice shiny new one waiting to go in at the end of the year.
And you helped design that as well, did you?
I did, yeah. So it's nice to see it from that sort of concept to the final installation stage.
You must be proud of yourself. I think I did that. I was involved in that.
I will be when it goes in and if it fits. It will be pat on the backside, but...
When is it due to go in?
November, December this year, I think.
Cool. Not long then.
Not long,
brilliant.
So.
Ben, coming to you. What's your favourite project so far?
Well, I get involved in like lots of little projects. I don't really get like big projects like the grads would get. I just get handed like little things to like work on myself. So at the start of the year, I was looking at redesigning. So we have sample points on our plant. So like you can take it out and then it gets into like, we have a big lab downstairs where you can just like analyze it, say how much of monomer is in it, how much of like the nasty like byproducts you don't want are in it. So you have sample points, they take them every day. So it's like a daily process, they take them. And at the minute, they're not too safe the way they do it, like with the exposure to the operator and things like that. So at the minute, it's kind of just like a tap off the side of the pipe and then they just come up with a little bottle, open it up and there you got your sample. So what I'm trying to do is redesign that, make it a more safe system. So like the operator's exposure is limited. So kind of keep it as like a closed system. So it's kind of like round a pump, and then you do like it's got like a kickback loop, and then it's all like contained within the pipes. And then there'll be like a three-way valve, which, and it's got like a little cabinet as well, so you can contain all like your nasty vapors and stuff. And you can just put your bottle in, close it up, and turn the handle, and you get your sample. So I'm like looking at redesigning the sample points to do that, but I need to prioritize which ones are going to be changed first, based on like how frequently they're used, how hazardous the chemical is, how important it is to like the running of the plant that we need those samples, and things like that. So that was kind of a good starting little project that I had to like prioritize how we pull samples.
Quite a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, it is definitely. I mean, I had a lot, because it was near the start, I had a lot of support from my manager, like kind of guiding me a little bit. But then like as I found my own feet, I could kind of take it and run with it. Towards the end, we've now got a concept paper to get 2 of them installed in, I think in November. The outage that Tom's on about, the November outage, we're gonna have 2 of them installed then. So I'll be asking managers to like send me photos and at uni, like show me what I've done, see if it's actually worked. But yeah,
that's great though. But it's another myth buster there though, isn't it? Because I think sometimes there's that thought of, you know, if I go and do a placement, am I just going to be making tea and coffee? Am I just going to be running around doing errands for other people? But it just shows you that you're really not, and you're actually doing it.
I mean, at the start it is like kind of a bit like errand boy, like you do the bits to get you like give you a bit of context of how the plant runs and things like that, and then you get a lot of support with that. But then like I say, from probably about December, January onwards, I felt much more independent than I did in the first few months, where like I can be given a piece of work, I can work on it on my own and give it back in the like give it back to the right standard, like the site standard of the kind of work they want.
Yeah.
When it comes to like the end of going on to the end of a placement now, I'm now looking at a different plant on site. I'm looking at actually redesigning the entire way that like the cooling water for a heat exchanger, how that system operates. So that's like another concept people need to do. But like I've not been given the initial support that I got from doing the sample point one. It's more just, here's the problem, figure it out yourself. And that's what I like that's what I wanted. It's just like getting that responsibility. So that gives you more of like your development manager role or your graduate role, where you can take something from an initial concept and hopefully get it in the field, and hopefully it works. But brilliant. Yeah, I can definitely see the progression.
So Anna, not to put any pressure on you here, but when would Ben find out if he could secure a graduate program with you after?
I couldn't tell that really yet at the moment, but I'm sure if he's doing well and we have a space, we'll find him something. I mean, that's the point. We're really looking for student placement and want to progress on them later on through the graduate. Obviously, I don't know at the moment what are the needs of the company, but you know, the chances are all the good ones are going to stay with us.
Sounds like you've got a job, Ben. I won't worry. Grace, quickly come to you then. Kyle, you know, you kind of touch upon, Grace, your kind of projects that you've been working on, but is there anything else that you want to add to that?
I think I've covered pretty much everything on the bio projects. As I said, I do a lot of sort of odd jobs for the chemists down in the labs, which are generally, as I said, they are generally very odd. So at the moment I'm designing a rig to produce essentially catalyst beads, but I don't know if you watch any like baking or cooking programs. If they want to make like beads of jelly or something, then they'll drop it into like cold water. It's the same sort of principle as that. So we're dropping the beads of this mixture into a tower. We've never built anything like this before, so it's a lot of troubleshooting. You know, how do you get the beads out, being the main one? It's a batch process, and we've tried all sorts of strange designs. We've had a well, essentially sort of the bucket you might have in a well. So you have a little bucket at the bottom and you crank it back up at the end. So we've got all sorts of odd designs. So yeah, I think it shows to show it's not all straight the sort of stuff that you do at uni. You know, sort of those very straightforward sort of continuous type processes. There are odd things out there, but it's still all the same sort of principles behind it.
It sounds like you have so much fun every day.
It sounds it is fun. It is also annoying. You know, when as I say, it's a lot of guessing and going back to the drawing board and going round and round in circles trying to figure things out. But yeah, it is fun. Yeah.
I can imagine it's quite consuming in your mind all the time. Do you ever have like those 3 o'clock in the morning light bulb moments? I've got it.
Yeah, I always have where you start working on it and then you look up and it's like, oh, it's 5 o'clock. I should probably go home now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sounds fun though. Every day is obviously different.
Yeah.
I like it. And Kyle, coming to you.
Tell you what, it's tough going after Grace. So very mundane after that. Yeah, so we kind of touched on outages, and I suppose we were talking about the November outage. And one of the big things for process engineers is these outages where basically we take some of the plants offline, usually for things like maintenance or on some of the monomer plants. Because of what we produce, we actually produce quite a lot of plastic inside the pipes accidentally. So sometimes we have to shut down to basically jet wash everything out. So basically just use a power hose and jet wash out the pipes, the vessels and things like that. So I suppose
you're
every
right,
couple
Cal,
of months
yours
we've got
is
one.
definitely not as exciting.
Yeah. So basically that's my job for a couple of weeks every year, is just looking inside pipes and saying there's no plastic in there. We can start up online again. But you do find some interesting stuff, like you basically, it's your one chance to have a look inside of everything. So this thing that you've been looking at every morning and doing projects on, you get to actually see inside of it and you can sort of build a bit of a story. So for example, if you've had the temperature on too high at one point and then you find too much plastic in there, then it sort of reiterates how you should be operating the plant and validates everything that you've already thought, which is pretty interesting.
Kyle, can I ask a question about outages? Sorry, Jess. I'm guessing that these are quite expensive for the company as well, aren't they? Because obviously you can't be producing anything when it's having an outage, whatever the correct term is. So I'm guessing you have to do it quite quickly but safely as well. As there must be a lot of responsibility there.
There is. We are quite good with overhauls because we've got so many plants. We have a designated overhaul team. We take in a lot of contractors, so we contract a lot of the work out because like scaffolding and mechanical fitters and things like that, they know how to do it a lot more safely than we do probably, because it's more specialized. And some of the more specialized things like chemical cleans, we contract all of that out. Number one, to save money, and number two, because they do it safer and better. So that's how we kind of navigate around that, is by outsourcing. Yeah.
Sorry, Jess, were we asking the same question?
I was going to ask a question, but how many times a year do you do that?
It depends. At the minute, we're doing quite a few. So we had one in last November, and then each plant has sort of a different schedule. So my plant comes offline in 2 weeks. So that'll just be me doing that really, or looking after the process side of things. And then we've got another one after that, then more in November, I believe. So quite a few.
Quite a few, yeah. Interesting. Are we doing benefits?
Can we do top facts? Because I reckon these guys are going to have some right cool ones. So who am I going to start with? I'm going to make it hard for Kyle. So Grace.
Oh, I don't know. I think leave best to last.
Oh, well, I was just thinking that everybody else can say a good one and then Kyle can finish and then start rumbling around. Grace, I'm going to start with the ladies first. Okay. So Grace, I'm going to come to you first and then Anna. So key fact about Mitsubishi Chemical.
So I think something that's really interesting for me working at the Wilton site is we developed an entirely new way to make methyl methacrylate. So it's an entirely new process route, and the entirety of the development of that process, all the way from sort of initial experiments in sort of the 90s to the design through to the commissioning. It was commissioned in 2008, was done entirely at the Wilton site. So we did the experiment. We built a pilot plant as well to produce about 0.5 kilogram an hour of MMA. So that's to test, whether it works. And typically you would go from that pilot plant to a middle-sized plant, then to the full-size plant. But we decided to skip the middle bit entirely and go straight from 0.5 kilogram an hour to 100 kilotons per year. So it's a scale-up factor of 25,000, which is not normal. And took quite a lot of work. But yeah, so we still use that pilot plant now to test. So we test a new catalyst for that process on it and any process changes that they may want to make as well.
Fantastic. Good fact. Thank you, Grace. Anna, have you got a top fact?
Sure. I know we only have 1 minute remaining.
Oh, don't worry.
Right. So kaiteki, that's a part of our culture. It's something very important to us. It's about well-being of the planet and society and people, and we really live through that principle. So, for example, last month we sent a liquid oxygen truck in India to areas that really are affected, and there's a shortage of oxygen in hospitals. So Nippon, one of our group companies, for example, sent that kind of truck.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Anna. Really good fact. Tom?
Thank you, Carla. I'm glad I'm not lost. So I think mine is that it's more about the Castle site rather than Mitsubishi as a whole.
Yeah, no, that's
But we
fine.
are one of the top 3 COMA sites in the UK. So that's your control of major accidents and hazards. And it's basically saying the stuff we've got on sites in the top 3 most dangerous things in the UK, just behind a couple of nuclear sites. If we were to have an accident, the sort of consequences of it are huge.
Wow. Grace is laughing.
Nice.
I don't really know what to come back with these facts. I'm just like, wow, cool, amazing. Ben, give us your fact, love.
Mine's a little bit more low key than that. It's we are the only producer of something called N-butyl methacrylate. So it's quite like a commonly used monomer, but we're the only producer in Europe of that particular monomer. So I thought that might be interesting because there's quite a fair few chemical plants in Europe. We're the only one that makes it. So
it will definitely be interesting to our audience. So
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Your audience, yeah.
And Kyle, last but by no means least.
Thanks
What
for
is
the
that?
validation. I need it. Yeah, so I actually learned this one in university, and then I came here and realized that it took place here. So in World War II, the canopies of the Spitfires used to be glass, but they discovered glass is non-biocompatible. So if you get it in your eye, basically, you have, Chris is laughing, you have an allergic reaction. So they replaced it with PMMA, which is derived from what we produce. And I believe the canopies for the Spitfires were produced on this site. That's the local legend anyway.
Oh, well, we like a bit of local legend.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Thank you, Kyle. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. It's been really good fun and I've had a right laugh. So that's me done for the day. And don't forget, everybody, you can watch the webinar as a full on the Mitsubishi Chemical Hub tomorrow, and then we'll break it up into bite-sized chunks, which will be live on the Career Centre and on the Hub next week. So thanks, guys, for joining us. It's been real good fun. And just a note for everybody else who is watching. So unfortunately, Hawley, who are due to be holding a webinar with us next week, have had to cancel due to unforeseen circumstances. So this is actually the last webinar in the 2021 series. Oh, it's a sad one. We have thoroughly enjoyed hosting these webinars over the last 10 months, and we've heard some of the most fascinating employers around the world. So me and Jess and everyone at GradCracker would personally like to thank the tens of thousands of students who have joined us over the season. As you all know, but all of the webinars will be in the GradCracker Career Centre, so take time over the summer to watch the webinars at your leisure. Some amazing employers have already signed up for the next season, which is the 2021-22 season, which starts on Thursday, the 2nd of September at 2 p.m. And me and Jess will be back again to join you then. Big names who'll be joining us include people like Mercedes Formula One, GSK, the RAF, Atkins, and many sure to name a few. And please don't forget there's thousands of opportunities still on GradCracker that you as STEM students can apply to. So make sure you get your applications in. We can't wait to see you all in September. So have a lovely summer. Take care and we'll see you then. But for now, thanks for everybody for joining us today. See you soon.
See you later.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.